This is Team Grunwald's Sprint 2 memoranda demonstration. We've made a lot of changes, so I'm going to get right started. First, we've added some functionality to our notes. If I made a new note, I can insert a file now other than HTML. So I can insert a text file, and if I wanted to test note insert, I have this test insert and then add new info, which was Matthew Seiler's contribution here, and I can now export this note to a file other than HTML. So I can also export to a text file, test note, in my documents, save it, and here in my documents I have my test note, add new info, test insert, shows up perfectly. That was William Scholl's contribution. And then moving into tasks, I can create a new task, task 1, description. I can now add estimated effort and actual hours we can now track. This was Brian Hood's contribution. I can track my defects on task 1. I can also track estimated lines of code. Let's call it 10. Estimated lines of code contribution was by Craig Smith. If I say OK, I can also add a subtask here, task 1A, and put some actual hours in of 6 and more defects. Let's say there were 4 in that, and 300 lines of code. So task 1A, all of this stuff shows up here, 6 hours. Okay, task 1, all of this stuff shows up, 10 lines of code there. So we also have this capability to calculate the task data of actual subtask efforts and defects. Now if I click that button and hit OK, task 1 now shows an actual hours of 6 and an estimated lines of code of 300 as it pulled that information up through its subtasks to keep track and more easily keep track of your actual effort as things get further nested. So we have those, and that, as I said, that was contributed by Brian and Craig. We also have this PSP button. I've populated one here just to show, but we have an ability to select between defects and time up here in a format, and if we track our defects, we can add a defect, defect 2. We can pick where we've inserted them, pick the defect type, where they were injected, when we removed them, how long it took, and a reference ID, let's call it task 1A. And we can also edit any of these, description, more descriptive, and let's say it took more like 20 minutes. And we can show that these do edit, and this one we can also delete. We can delete that. Are you sure? Yes. Adding time logs, we can enter a new ID, description, when, code phase, lines of code at start is 20, lines of code at the end is 300, time 4:30, 4:30, time at end 5:30, total interruption time 30 minutes. Okay, and those come up. We can also edit these IDs. Did some work, took some time. let's say we just did some work, and let's say we wanted to remove this. We can also dynamically remove this information as well. So that is these forms here, PSP forms, were done by myself, Avery Bowen, Matthew Zalmarati, and Matthew Seiler. We all contributed to this functionality in various ways. Thank you. Here is our completed Sprint 2 task board. We have our closed tasks on this side. We have our user stories on this side. We did want to incorporate some productivity tracking into this PSP functionality. However, with lines of code tracking and estimated hours and all of that, we actually didn't get to that in this sprint. But all of our other code defects tracking and lines of code tracking were all complete, as you see here. Thank you.